I'm Cam Rayner's #1 fan. My name's Nicole and I'm also his mum. That one's my little boy. He looks like his mum.
Like, these were my wrestling toys from when I was a kid.
I can name one. I can name John Cena, that's about it.
They used to be Mum's favourite. We've got Shawn Michaels, Rey Mysterio, Rob Van Dam. Who else we got in here? The Undertaker, which is a classic. Kane, which is another classic. And then I think these are the Hardy Boys as well. So me and Locke used to always dress up as these two. We used to grab socks,
cut
the holes out of them and stick your thumbs through the middle of them. No, yeah, it's awesome. I guess something that me and Lockie used to always love as kids, and Mum's got the belts in here as well.
You used to walk around this over your shoulder, running around the house.
Permanent marker where we used to write who our favourite wrestler was at the time and chuck it in there. So, yeah, this is pretty cool to look back on.
And just that competitiveness.
Yeah. Well, I think there probably was a few times where me and Locke would play fighting out there.
Yeah.
Which would have got a bit serious pretty quickly, but it's all love.
It was. As a child, Cam was always full of energy. His little brain would be 5 steps ahead of where his body was. On his tippy toes and in fast forward, always. That was just how we got around. He had to be the best at everything he did. He would just keep trying to make sure that he mastered whatever activity he was doing. And he was a happy little boy. He always had these big, beautiful cheeks.
Yeah, I didn't really have much of an off button. I don't really think a lot's changed, to be honest, as I've got older. But as a kid, I always remember I think Mum's touching on the point about practicing. I used to, I don't know, go home and just try every little thing. Yeah, everything I did, I felt like I did it with 100%.
So, yeah, he just would practice something over and over. And also you could ask our neighbour how many times you kicked her car.
Yeah, the footy.
Stand out the front of the house and kick right foot and left foot to hit the light post over and over and over. And poor Lena would...
Yeah.
And she didn't mind. She always just would flick the ball back or you'd go and get it. John and his side of the family and my dad barracked for Essendon and I barracked for Carlton, and the boys were born in Carlton, so I was very happy that they have Carlton on their birth certificate. However, they were very passionate Essendon supporters. Oh, I'm quite sure that's an Essendon-Carlton game, and I'm pretty sure in those days Carlton would have beaten Essendon. But the kids, yeah, just loved Essendon.
Oh, it was awesome. We used to always go to the games like as a family, or even Dad would take me and Locke as well. And some of my earliest memories were probably getting off the train station at Flinders Street and walking down the Yarra to the MCG to go and watch footy. And then obviously it's full circle now, but it's pretty cool to look back and think about those times, because the train ride home used to be pretty ordinary if you're an Essendon supporter, and then if Mum was a Carlton supporter and she had the rest of us barracking for Essendon, it was pretty miserable for her. But no, they're special memories.
I tried to hold the kids back, so the kids started playing football. Cam would have been 8.
The first game I went to, you didn't come with because Dad let me play.
I didn't know, that's why. I just wanted them to be kids and not have to get into that routine of every weekend. And Lockie started playing and Cam played in Lockie's team. I think he would have been 8.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I didn't let them...
I kind of got away with a couple of weeks, and then I think she started to click on what was happening. But Dad was bringing me along and I was warming up with all the boys and started to play, but yeah, it would have started from a very young age.
Yeah, and he was very theatrical even then when you were little. Like he still had to, he would have the pictures of what happened in a game on TV and would have to try and copy that as he was playing. So he didn't just take a specky, he took a specky. And at one time, he was chatting to the little boy, the opposition, and telling him just to bend over a little bit so Cam could jump up on his back and take the specky. And all this is happening down one end and the play's down the other end, but Cam was just practicing for when the ball came down to his end to take the specky. And I think the little boy obliged. He was pretty happy to do as she said. One of the coaches used to call him Mr. Hollywood, because he wouldn't just kick a goal, he'd kick it and there'd be a show and he'd get the crowd involved, just even as a little person. I realised when Cam played in the under-16 Due to Stars grand final and kicked maybe 5 goals in the grand final and got best on ground, and then the under-18s played a fortnight later and he filled in and kicked I think it was 8 goals and got best on ground again. And he had this thick, curly hair at the time and he really stood out. And the presenter at the end of the season said, "This is deja vu." He said, "I'm sure I presented this kid the same award a fortnight ago." We thought he always stood out, but that's when I realised it was something special watching him play. And again, even in those days, the crowd he'd get the crowd involved.
I think, yeah, that was probably a turning point into actually when I started to realise that I could probably make a career out of this, and it was looking like it was a chance that I could, probably make it to the AFL. I think that was probably one of the goals later in the game. See the curly hairs flowing, the number 74 jumper. Obviously pretty cool as well with growing up as an Essendon supporter and playing that grand final at Windy Hill, which was where Essendon used to train in their home base. That was pretty special for me at the time as well. And I guess as a 16-year-old playing in the under-18s, it was a pretty big moment. So something that I cherish, and it's always fun to look back on these videos.
Look at all the hair. And I used to think that you were so tiny, but you're as big as the other ones.
Yeah,
that was exciting.
Special, yeah,
that was exciting. And you got the crowd involved, but exciting for the whole family just watching. I'm Cam's #1 fan because I've been there for the whole journey and I love going to watch the show. It's the Cam Rayner show some ways. He just brings excitement to the game when he plays. And I never doubted the journey. I always knew it would end up here because I'm your #1 fan.
I'm Cam Rayner and my mum Nicole is my #1 fan.